What's going on? Simon Kaufman alongside Max Boltman from the Michigan Daily. NJIT upsetting Michigan 72-70 here at Chrysler. A big win for NJIT. You were around some of their players afterwards. Talk about the reaction a little bit.
Well, it was huge. This is a team that has been, hovering around 500 in the lower parts of college basketball for a very long time. They're the only independent in college basketball. This is a huge win for them, and they were naturally excited. I was standing outside their locker room right when their coach walked in. They all jumped on him. He ended up on the ground, and it sounded like they were just having a great time in there.
On Michigan's end, LeVert ended with 32 points. He was huge down the stretch. It was a career night for him, but noticeably absent. Irvin was 1 for 8 from deep shooting. Chapman was 0 for 6 from the field. This is the sort of thing where if LeVert's not carrying the load, it seems like it might be difficult against some of these other teams coming up.
Well, it's not just if LeVert's carrying the load. I think he is a load carrier for them. What's really the problem is when you're not getting outside contributions from an Irvin or a Chapman. Now, anything Chapman does at this point still has to be considered a bonus because he hasn't proven it on a large scale. But Irvin, he was your leading scorer up until a couple games ago. You really need Zach Irvin to produce if you're John Beilein.
Michigan lost to Charlotte early last year in Puerto Rico. This game seems somewhat, reminiscent of that in some ways, but they bounce back. They end up in the lead. How does a young team like this one bounce back from this loss?
Well, John Beilein will take care of that. He always does a good job of keeping his team's heads on straight. But I don't think this is necessarily the same thing as Charlotte. This was a home loss against an independent team, and sure, Charlotte wasn't a great team. Maybe in terms of surprise to Michigan, but in terms of this whole stadium just was dead quiet and everyone could not believe what happened. Lose a game like this at home, you got to think that's a bigger loss than Charlotte was. But with that said, I do think that this does not really harm Michigan too much going forward.
All right, absolutely. Final here from Chrysler, Michigan 70, NJIT 72. Make sure to catch all of our content on MichiganDaily.com.